Imagine looking at a word where um, the letter R suddenly sounds like an N simply because it moved to the end of the sentence.
Right, and the vowels don't just patiently wait their turn next to the consonants like we're used to.
No, they don't. Instead, they sort of hover above the letters where they hide underneath them, which totally changes the physical direction your eyes have to move.
Yeah, you aren't just reading left to right anymore.
Exactly. You're navigating this like three-dimensional phonetic grid.
Which is wild because it forces a complete rewiring of how you process information. I mean, when you're confronted with a totally unfamiliar visual system, no recognizable Latin letters, no familiar spacing, your brain experiences this massive cognitive friction.
Because you lack the foundation to even guess what the shapes mean.
Precisely.
Well, welcome to a brand new deep dive. Today, we are exploring the architecture of language and the really fascinating science of how we learn.
It's a great topic.
It really is, because whether you're trying to pick up a new language or, mastering some complex new software at work, or you're just intensely curious about how the human brain acquires literacy from absolute scratch, this deep dive is going to give you a massive aha moment.
Absolutely. So for our sources today, we are looking at a highly detailed academic study. It encompasses 20 sets of skill exercises, lesson plans, and theoretical frameworks.
It's a heavy stack of research.
It is, yeah. The researchers basically designed a rigorous curriculum to teach the Thai alphabet, from the very first consonant, Gorkai, all the way to the last, Hornakuk.
And what's really unique here is how they delivered it to beginners, right?
Right. They utilized a full English version phonetic guide. And when we say that, we mean the study specifically focused on providing all English audio narration and comprehensive phonetic mapping.
So like a continuous English voiceover guiding them.
Exactly. The entire instructional audio, the explanations, everything was in English to build this temporary cognitive bridge between the English sounds the learners already knew and the completely alien Thai script.
Our mission today is to look at how these researchers essentially cracked the code of this visually intricate script. They use synthetic phonics and cognitive psychology to do it.
Yeah, and if we're starting with the foundation, a native English speaker looking at Thai for the first time is immediately hit with the reality that, well, it is not a standard alphabet.
Not at all.
It operates as an alphasyllabary, which linguists sometimes call an abugida.
An ugigita, right?
Yeah. The system consists of 44 consonants, and they're categorized into high, middle, and low tone classes. But, and this is key, before a learner even attempts to vocalize a tone, they hit a brick wall.
The visual wall.
Exactly. The researchers identified that the very first hurdle is simply visual discrimination.
Because to the untrained eye, the characters just look like a sea of identical, intricate squiggles.
Right, because your brain doesn't know what parts of the shape actually matter. Is a loop just a stylistic flourish? Or does it change the entire meaning of the letter?
Spoiler alert, the loops are critical.
They are critical. The researchers had to explicitly train the students to spot these microscopic differences.
Give us an example from the exercises.
Okay, take the concept of the head of a letter, which is just a tiny little circle. There is a letter called dodeck, which produces a D sound.
Okay. Dudek.
Right. It features a tiny head that rolls inward toward the center of the character. But if you draw that exact same basic shape and just roll the tiny circle outward instead.
Just flipping the direction of the loop.
Exactly, just an outward loop. Suddenly you produce kokwai, which is a K sound.
Wait, so if the differences are that microscopic, literally just an inward roll versus an outward roll, how on earth does an adult brain keep that straight?
It's incredibly difficult. And it gets even more granular.
Oh boy.
Yeah, the research mentions dented heads.
Dented heads.
Yeah, so if you take the smooth, rounded top of D-deck, that D sound we just talked about, and you simply draw a tiny notch, like a little dent, right at the top curve, the letter transforms into tu tau.
Which is a completely different sound.
Right, it produces a T sound.
Okay, so I have to push back on the researchers' methodology for a second here.
Sure, go ahead.
If the differences between a D and a T are a microscopic dent, or the difference between a D and a K is the direction of a millimeter-wide loop, how does drawing a picture of a chicken help?
A picture of a chicken.
Yeah, the research mentions pairing the letters with cartoons. Wouldn't a giant picture of a cartoon chicken just, distract you from the really mechanical details of the loop?
See, that is a very natural assumption, but it ignores how memory actually anchors new information.
Okay, how so?
This is where the researchers applied Jean Piaget's cognitive development theory. Piaget proved that you cannot force an adult brain to memorize a purely abstract, microscopic detail without giving it a macro-level, concrete home first.
Oh, I see. So the brain needs a house to put the tiny detail into.
Exactly that. If I just show you the abstract squiggle for Gorkai, your working memory is going to discard it in seconds.
Because it means nothing to me.
Right. But Kai means chicken in Thai. And the shape of the letter Gorkai features this distinct point that visually mimics a chicken's beak.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so by showing the learner a concrete image of a chicken alongside the full English phonetic spelling and the all-English audio narration, you aren't distracting them.
You're providing a physical anchor.
Precisely. Once the brain links the general shape to the concept of a chicken, it can finally relax enough to zoom in and focus on the microscopic details like the loop or the dent.
So they aren't just teaching a letter, they are teaching the brain how to tolerate the ambiguity of a totally new visual system. They basically give you the training wheels first.
And those training wheels are a core part of the methodology. It draws heavily on Lev Vygotsky's scaffolding theory.
Scaffolding, right.
Yeah, you don't just show the letter and ask the student to write it from memory. The cognitive load would just be way too high. Instead, you build a scaffold.
What did that scaffolding physically look like in these 20 exercises?
Well, the curriculum starts with the most basic tactile engagement tracing.
Just tracing the letters.
Right. The learner physically traces the complete letter. They feel the friction of the pen moving inward for a dodec or outward for a co-quai.
Building the muscle memory.
Exactly. This relies on Edward Thorndike's connectionism theory. You're carving a neural pathway through repeated physical stimulus and response.
But Vygotsky scaffolding requires that you eventually remove the support, doesn't it?
It does. So in the next phase, the student is presented with the letter, but a crucial piece is missing.
Like the chicken's beak is suddenly gone.
Yes. The student looks at the incomplete character and has to actively recall and draw that missing stroke.
That's fascinating.
It is, because that moment of cognitive friction, realizing a piece is missing and forcing your brain to retrieve it, that is where the actual learning happens.
And then what?
Finally, the scaffold is removed entirely, and the student moves to independent phonetic spelling.
Man, that is a highly engineered cognitive ladder. It really makes me think about how we learn anything complex, like, say, a new software program at work.
How do you mean?
Well, you don't just read the manual and become an expert,
Yeah.
right? You need scaffolding.
Right.
You follow a step-by-step tutorial, which is the tracing phase.
Yeah.
Then you try to modify a pre-existing template, which is like filling in the missing beak. And only then do you start a new project from a blank screen.
That is a really accurate parallel. And the researchers knew this cognitive ladder worked because they held it to a ruthless metric,
Which was?
Bramah-Wang's criteria. They were specifically aiming for an 80-80 efficiency standard, which is denoted as E1 and E2 in the study.
Let's break down that 80-80 standard for everyone listening. What do E1 and E2 actually measure?
Sure. So E1 measures process efficiency. It basically tracks the learner's scores while they are actively working through the 20 scaffolding exercises.
Okay, so the practice phase.
Right. And E2 measures product efficiency. That is their performance on the final, unassisted post-test.
Got it. So to use a fitness analogy, E1 is tracking how well you perform your drills on the heavy bag in the gym during the week. That's the process.
I like that.
And E2 is whether you actually step into the ring on Saturday and win the boxing match. That's the product.
That captures it perfectly. An educational tool is only deemed highly effective if it hits 80 out of 100 on both the gym drills and the final match.
And how did this curriculum do?
The remarkable outcome here is that the English narrated curriculum achieved an 86.40 for the process and an 85.50 for the final product.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it didn't just meet the gold standard, it exceeded it.
Okay, so through scaffolding and visual anchors, I have memorized my 44 characters. The neural pathways are carved.
Right.
But if I just take those 44 characters and line them up left to right like I do in English,
Yeah.
I'm assuming the result looks like total gibberish to a Thai speaker.
Oh, it would be completely illegible.
I figure.
Yeah, mastering the individual letters is really only the first dimension. Constructing an actual syllable in Thai introduces a radical shift in spatial awareness.
This is the 3D grid you mentioned earlier.
Exactly. The basic linguistic unit is consonant-vowel-consonant, or CVC. But unlike English, where letters politely wait in a single horizontal line, Thai vowels operate on this multi-dimensional grid.
Explain this grid. Where do the vowels actually go if not next to the consonant?
Well, they can be positioned in front of, behind, above, or even below the initial consonant.
Way below?
Yeah. For instance, the vowel sound A, which is known as Sarah A, is placed behind the consonant, similar to English.
Okay, that was normal.
But the vowel sound 2, or Sarah 2, is drawn hovering directly above the consonant.
Above it.
Right. And the vowel sound U, Sarah U, is tucked physically underneath the consonant.
It's literally like playing phonetic Tetris. The pieces don't just line up, they stack vertically.
They really do.
So your eyes have to scan up and down while simultaneously moving forward. That's intense.
And the Tetris board becomes even denser when we introduce consonant clusters.
What are those?
They're known as accent-quam. This occurs when two consonants blend at the beginning of a word.
Like the EST and stuff.
Exactly. Let's take the letter Gorkai, producing a K, and Roruea, producing an R. When they form a cluster, such as in the word grap, which means to prostrate, the phonetic rule is absolute.
Which is?
There is no hidden vowel sound cushioning the two consonants.
So it is a sharp, immediate collision of sounds. Grab.
Right.
Not garap.
Exactly, grap. But the most critical piece of this whole phonetic Tetris game is the final block, the final consonants, or matra.
Okay, lay it on us.
This requires a massive paradigm shift for an English speaker, because despite having 44 consonants at your disposal to start a word, the Thai language only allows for 8 distinct ending sounds.
Wait, really? 44 ways to start, but only 8 ways to finish?
Exactly.
That is a massive funnel.
It is a massive funnel, and those 8 ending sounds dictate the entire physical resonance of the word. They are categorized into live syllables and dead syllables.
Live and dead syllables. That sounds dramatic.
It's not just a grammatical concept, though. It is a visceral, physical reality in your throat and mouth.
Okay, let's paint an auditory picture for everyone listening. What does a live syllable physically feel like compared to a dead one?
Let's look at the live section known as Mekon, which produces an N sound.
No.
When you end a word with a live syllable, the airflow continues. You can actually feel the vibration in your vocal cords and the hum in your nasal cavity.
So the sound just keeps going.
Right. You can hold that N sound until you literally run out of breath. It rings out smoothly.
Okay, so live means the word keeps breathing, essentially. What about the dead syllables?
Consider the dead section called Mekat, which produces a T sound. When you end a word with a dead syllable, the airflow is abruptly and completely cut off.
Like hitting a wall.
Exactly. The tongue blocks the back of the teeth, and the sound stops dead in its tracks. There is no release of air. It is a sharp, flat stop.
So the piece you snap into the very end of your Tetris stack fundamentally alters the physics of the word. I mean, whether it hums and vibrates or whether it just hits a brick wall.
That's exactly right.
But wait, if we apply basic logic here, you have 44 consonants, but they all have to funnel down into just 8 ending sounds.
Yes.
There has to be a massive traffic jam. I mean, you must have dozens of different letters, all forced to share the exact same sound at the end of a word.
And that structural traffic jam is the source of the most complex hurdle in the language.
Which is?
Homophones and indirect spelling.
Yeah.
Because of that funnel, letters are forced to shapeshift.
Shapeshift.
Yeah, their phonetic identity changes completely depending on where they are placed on the Tetris board.
Okay, you've got to give us a concrete example of a letter changing its identity. That sounds crazy.
It is wild. The prime example highlighted in the curriculum is the letter Roruea.
Roruea.
When Roruea sits at the front of a word, acting as the initial consonant, it produces an R sound, like in the word ruea, which means boat.
Makes total sense. The R is an R.
Exactly. It acts exactly as an English speaker would expect an R to act.
Yeah.
But, and here's the twist, if you take that exact same character, Roruea, and you place it at the back of the word as a final consonant, it undergoes a transformation.
Let me guess, it's not an R anymore.
Nope. You must completely forget its initial sound. Because Thai doesn't have an R ending sound in its 8 allowed categories, Roruea shapeshifts into an N sound.
Wait, an N sound?
Yes, it joins the live syllable section of Mekon.
Let me get this straight. A letter that sounds like an R at the front of the sentence magically becomes an N just because it moved to the back.
That's exactly what happens.
That sounds incredibly frustrating for a learner. I mean, why would a language evolve to have indirect spelling like that? If you want an N sound at the end of the word, why not just use the actual letter for N?
It's a great question. And it comes down to the preservation of history versus the strict rules of phonetics.
History, really?
Yeah. The research notes that this indirect spelling is primarily driven by words borrowed from ancient Pali or Sanskrit.
Oh.
When Thai adopted these ancient words, they kept the original complex spelling to preserve the word's visual history, its etymology, and its deeper meaning.
So the spelling is basically a visual museum of where the word came from.
Precisely. They kept the visual history, but they adapted the audio to fit the strict 8 ending sounds of the Thai phonetic funnel.
So you are looking at a Pali spelling,
Mm-hmm.
but you're speaking a Thai pronunciation.
Exactly.
Man, that is brilliant from a historical perspective. But it really explains why the researchers needed a 20-exercise scaffold with full English audio narration just to help students survive the transition.
It's a lot of cognitive friction to overcome.
Which brings us to the ultimate question of this deep dive. We've talked about the inward loops, the hovering vowels, the shape-shifting consonants. Did this highly structured cognitive approach actually work for the students in the study?
The data is definitive.
Let's hear it.
Before beginning the scaffolding exercises, the students took a pretest. The mean score was 9.2 ever out of 20.
So they were essentially failing to decode the system.
Completely failing. But then they were taken through the Piaget visuals, the Thorndike tracing, and the Vygotsky missing beak exercises.
All guided by that all-English audio narration.
Right, that crucial phonetic framework. And on the post-test, the mean score skyrocketed to 17.10 out of 20.
Oh my goodness. They nearly doubled their ability to read a completely alien script.
They did. And just as importantly, the study measured their subjective experience.
Like how much they hated the process.
Well, actually, the student satisfaction score was a 4.72 out of 5.
Oh, that's high.
It landed in the highest satisfaction category. So they didn't just survive the cognitive friction. The scaffolding made the process deeply satisfying.
You know, if you've ever felt completely underwater trying to absorb a massive influx of new information, whether you're learning to code, studying for an advanced degree, or trying to understand a new language, look at the underlying lesson of these students.
It's universally applicable.
It really is. They didn't achieve a 17-point DIN by staring at flashcards and using brute force rote memorization. They achieved it by decoding the structural architecture.
Right, because they recognize that traditional memorization just fails when a system is this opaque. The human brain requires a ladder.
Needs a house for the details.
Exactly. To synthesize what all the sources have shown us today, the Thai script is a highly spatial architectural system.
Yeah, it requires mastering inward and outward loops, placing vowels on a 3D grid.
And understanding the shape-shifting nature of final consonants governed by ancient linguistic history.
But by applying cognitive development theory to anchor the abstract, and Vygotsky scaffolding to slowly increase the cognitive friction, the researchers proved that structural learning scales the wall every single time.
When you bridge a completely unfamiliar visual character with its phonetic meaning, using a familiar scaffolding like, in this case, the Comprehensive English Audio Guide, the brain stops seeing squiggles.
It starts seeing a systematic code.
Exactly.
And that is the actionable takeaway for you listening. Whenever you are faced with a dense, intimidating new field of study, stop trying to memorize the surface-level details.
Your brain will just reject them.
Right. Find the underlying code. Build your understanding from concrete, macro-level associations, like a picture of a chicken, all the way up to the abstract, shape-shifting rules. Find the scaffolding, lean into the cognitive friction, and climb it step by step.
The friction is the evidence that the neural pathways are actually forming.
Absolutely. I want to leave you with one final thought based on the mechanics we explored today. Consider the multidimensional nature of reading a Thai syllable.
It's quite the mental workout.
It really is, because your eyes are not just passively scanning in a straight line from left to right. You are scanning left, right, up, and down simultaneously to decode hovering vowels and shape-shifting consonants.
Right.
So if the language we use fundamentally shapes how we process the world, how might reading daily in a 360-degree spatial matrix physically wire a brain differently than reading in a strict, straight, linear line?
That's a great question.
Just imagine how navigating that linguistic grid alters the very architecture of the mind. Something for you to mull over until our next deep dive.